You know how Samsung has been unusually quiet about the Galaxy Buds 4 Pro? Almost to the point where it felt intentional. Like they were letting expectations cool down before revealing something that actually matters. And over the past couple of days, the picture finally started to come together in a way that feels far more practical and grounded than the speculative feature overload many people were expecting. Because instead of chasing headline-grabbing gimmicks, Samsung appears to be doubling down on the fundamentals that determine whether a pair of true wireless earbuds actually fits into your daily life. And the clearest example of that philosophy shows up immediately in the battery story, which on paper might look like a boring spec, but in reality explains nearly every design and usability choice across the last several generations of Galaxy Buds. Starting with the Buds 2 and Buds 2 Pro that both carried 61 mAh batteries per earbud, a number that helped establish Samsung's reputation for dependable endurance even when active noise cancellation, transparency mode, and background processing were all turned on. Then moving into the Buds 3 generation where Samsung intentionally slimmed things down to pursue a cleaner, lighter form factor, cutting the regular Buds 3 down to 48 mAh and the Buds 3 Pro to 53 mAh. A move that technically reduced capacity but didn't immediately cause outrage, because improvements in power management masked a drop for most users. Although longtime Galaxy Buds fans definitely noticed that margin of comfort slowly shrinking during long listening days. And now with the Buds 4 lineup, Samsung is very clearly drawing a line between the standard and Pro models in a way that feels deliberate and strategic rather than accidental. Because the regular Buds 4 falling all the way down to roughly 42 mAh tells you exactly where Samsung sees that product fitting as a lightweight, everyday option for casual listening, while the Buds 4 Pro jumping back up to around 57 mAh signals that Samsung understands its core power users value stability, endurance, and consistency more than shaving a few fractions of a gram off the earbuds. And that jump isn't just a small recovery from last year. It actually leapfrogs the Buds 3 Pro battery and lands surprisingly close to the beloved Buds 2 generation, which is significant when you consider how much more processing modern earbuds handle compared to those older models. From advanced ANC algorithms to adaptive sound profiles and constant environmental monitoring. And for earbuds that are already incredibly compact, that extra battery headroom becomes more meaningful than any flashy feature Samsung could have added, especially when everything from ANC to transparency to voice detection runs in the background simultaneously and quietly drains power. And what makes this change even more interesting is that Samsung didn't pair it with an explosion of new battery-hungry features, which suggests this generation is about refinement rather than reinvention, reinforcing the basics so that listening time remains predictable and reliable, regardless of how heavily you lean on the smart features. And speaking of smart features, one of the most genuinely useful changes to Surface so far isn't the massive hardware upgrade at all, but a small software-driven gesture tweak, discovered in the One UI 8.5 teardown, where it appears Samsung is enabling direct access to interpreter mode through a simple pinch and hold on the earbuds themselves. A change that perfectly captures the difference between features that look good on a spec sheet and features that actually solve real-world problems. Because interpreter mode isn't something you plan for. It's the kind of situation that happens suddenly when someone switches languages mid-conversation, or you find yourself needing to understand quick information on the fly, and being able to activate it instantly without pulling out your phone or navigating menus turns the Buds 4 Pro into a genuinely useful tool rather than just a passive audio accessory. And it's these kinds of small quality of life improvements that suggest Samsung is really paying attention to how people use their earbuds day after day rather than how they look in marketing demos. And while the overall design of the Buds 4 Pro doesn't dramatically change from what we've already seen hinted at before, that actually plays into the same philosophy. Because instead of constantly chasing radical shape changes, Samsung appears confident that the current design works and is choosing to refine comfort, usability, and internal balance rather than reinvent the shell for the sake of novelty, which is exactly what you want if you're someone who uses earbuds for hours at a time rather than just short sessions. And when you step back and look at the Buds 4 Pro as a whole, the picture becomes very clear. This is Samsung settling into a mature formula where performance gains aren't measured by dramatic feature leaps but by how well everything works together under extended use. With battery life being the foundation that supports ANC consistency, stable transparency, reliable touch controls, and intelligent background features without forcing you to constantly check percentage levels or rush to the charging case. And that's why the battery upgrade alone already positions the Buds 4 Pro ahead of the Buds 3 and Buds 3 Pro before we even factor in potential audio tuning improvements. Codec optimizations or microphone enhancements Samsung inevitably has waiting for the full announcement, because endurance is the one spec that quietly shapes the entire ownership experience. And by pushing the Pro model back toward that near 60 mAh range, Samsung is effectively saying that this product is meant to be worn all day. Trusted on long commutes, relied on for meetings, calls, travel, and background listening without anxiety. And that kind of reliability is what ultimately defines a great everyday pair of earbuds. Not experimental features that look impressive once and are forgotten after a week. So while this update might not generate the loudest hype online, it arguably matters more than most leaks we see, because it shows Samsung learning from its own recent trade-offs and correcting course in a way that benefits real users. And if the final product delivers even modest audio and ANC improvements on top of these changes, the Buds 4 Pro could easily become one of the most balanced and dependable wireless earbuds Samsung has released in years, which is a far more meaningful achievement than chasing innovation for innovation's sake. And if this leak-driven picture is accurate, the Buds 4 Pro feel less like a risky experiment and more like Samsung confidently locking in a formula that works, building a product that fits seamlessly into everyday life rather than constantly demanding attention. And in a market crowded with offerings that promise everything and deliver inconsistency, that calm, practical evolution might be exactly what many users have been waiting for.